Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are talking with Jessamyn Stanley, an internationally acclaimed voice in wellness, highly sought after for her insights on 21st century yoga and intersectional identity. As a successful award-winning yoga instructor and entrepreneur, she is the founder of The Underbelly, a streaming wellness app and community, and co-host of the podcast Dear Jessamyn. She's a regular contributor to Self Magazine, has been featured on cover of Cosmopolitan Cosmopolitan Magazine UK and covered in the New York Times, Vogue, Glamour, Sports Illustrated, and Women Health, among many other domestic and international media outlets. She is also the author of Yoke, My Yoga of Self-Acceptance, and Everybody Yoga. Let go of fear, get on the mat, and love your body. Jessamyn, welcome to the show.
Oh my God, Sarah Jane, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with you.
That is quite the bio. You're very cool.
Right. I was listening to it like, who is that? Who are we talking about? Is that? Do I know that person? Oh my God. Right. It's interesting, I think, how much is the same in my life from when I was like standing at the front of I was the hostess of a tapas bar for like years. And so in my mind, like not much has changed since then. So I'm like, yeah,
Interesting.
it's all kind of the same, essentially.
Yeah. What is your story? Like, how did you go from being the hostess of a tapas bar to doing all of the amazing things that you're doing now?
So basically, I was in graduate school and this is before the tapas bar. And which I say tapas bar, and I feel like it's heard sometimes as topless bar. It was definitely a tapas bar, a Spanish tapas bar. But anyway, so I was in grad school and I was just really depressed. And one of my friends suggested that I go to a yoga class with her. And I was like, absolutely not. Yoga is stupid. It is just for thin white women. I'm not doing that. And she convinced me to go by getting me to buy a Groupon pass. So I was like, I'll just buy this Groupon and go one time and she'll get off my back about it. And I remember going and I just thought that like everything about it was terrible. Like it was a hot yoga class. It was just like so hot. All of the postures seemed impossible. Like it seemed like everyone had gotten together and like practiced the postures ahead of time. And like I was not in that hangout session. So I didn't know what was going on. And it was a very alienating, very isolating experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I've noticed during the class just how much I told myself no and how often I was like, I can't do this. That I'm not, it's not possible. And I was like, where else in my life am I saying this? This is not just happening on the yoga mat. And over time, I realized that that was a huge part of my life. It is a huge part of my life, like setting boundaries for myself. And I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with is that we decide who we are. And then once we've decided who we are, we never expand beyond that. And yoga was a place where I was like, okay, I'm just going to give it a try. So yoga gave me a lot of confidence and it gave me the confidence to leave graduate school. Technically, I am still on a leave of absence from graduate school. And I like decided to move to a new town and like start my life completely differently. And when I moved, I didn't have a job. I didn't have a plan. And for a little while, I just had like all my clothes in my car and my partner was sleeping. Like they had a very tiny apartment with like a twin size bed and we would switch off who slept in the bed and my car was my closet for a period of time. And then eventually we like got an apartment together and I got a job, but I did not have the money to practice yoga in yoga studios. And I stopped practicing yoga for a period of time. And during that time, a lot of shitty things happened. Most notably, my aunt passed away very unexpectedly. And she and I think it's one of those things where you don't realize how close, sometimes you don't notice how much you love someone until they're gone. Yeah, but I was really struck by her passing and I found myself just spiraling. And I was like, what was making me feel good before? Yoga? Okay, I'm just going to find a way to do this at home. And so I knew a few yoga poses, and I had my dad's old Pilates mat. And so I would just push all the furniture out of this one corner of our apartment and like roll out my yoga mat and practice those few postures that I knew.
Mm.
And over time, I started taking more online classes, and I would like go out to classes when I could find the money. And I just started becoming like completely obsessed with this practice. And I
Mhm.
started documenting it. This was back whenever Instagram like first came out. And
Mm.
initially, like my first Instagram pictures were like my cat and food and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
definitely like the first people who were on Instagram were college students just showing their lives. But there were some yoga people on there, and I noticed that they were sharing photos of their practices, and I was like, I want to be a part of this community, because it was
Mhm.
very isolating to practice yoga at home. And I do think
Mhm.
now, having founded the Underbelly and having this wellness community where people around the world can come and practice yoga together, one thing that I really notice is that there is this isolating thing that happens when you are practicing
Mm.
yoga at home, and it's nice to be able to find community somehow. So
Mhm.
I was seeking community through social media. But what I noticed really was that I didn't have that many yoga people reaching out to me. I mostly had people being like, I didn't know that fat people could do yoga. And I was just like, why do you
Mm.
think fat people can't do yoga? Fat people do all kinds of things all the time.
Yeah.
So we clearly just have a visibility issue. So I kept sharing
Mhm.
my yoga practice as a way of showing that fat people are not just the before and after, that we do all
Mm.
kinds of things all the time. And over time, that led to more people asking me to teach them yoga. And I was like,
Mhm.
you don't need for me to teach you yoga. Literally, there are
Mm.
thousands of yoga teachers. I would recommend teachers and platforms. And I'm
Mhm.
saying this because I can't overemphasize, I had no interest in being a yoga teacher at all. But eventually it got to a place where I was like, okay, I'll go to training, but I just don't like, I'm not going to focus on teaching yoga. Like I have other goals. I'm not going to focus on this. But when I went
Yeah.
to training, I do think of myself as like before YTT, that's what we call yoga teacher training, and after YTT, because
Mhm.
after YTT, I really understood that everyone should teach yoga, not even necessarily like
Mm.
in yoga studios or in like not necessarily pastoral yoga classes where people do yoga flows together, that we're all living the yoga of our everyday life. Ultimately, yoga is
Mhm.
about balance. It's about finding the intersection in between all the different chaotic parts of ourselves. And
Mm.
the way that I understand yoga is not going to resonate for everybody, but it could resonate for even one person. And if it
Mhm.
resonates for one person, they might share it with one other person. And then that starts a
Mhm.
ripple effect that can resonate all over the world. And
Mm.
ultimately, for me, it's not about everybody practicing yoga. It's about the fact that we really live in a world right now that is focused and fixated on fear. We're all leading from fear. A lot of
Yeah.
advertising is driven by fear. But if we can instead move from a place of compassion and love and look
Mhm.
within ourselves for that compassion first, that can change, that can be the full systemic shift for us as a society. So
Mm.
that has led me to focus my yoga teaching in a way where, like, initially I literally just made a list of everywhere that people asked me to teach them, and I was like, cool, I'll just try to get to all these places on this list, and then I'll be done.
Mhm.
And eventually I realized that I can't physically go to all of those places. Like I've taught yoga all over the world, and I continue to teach live yoga classes all over. But
Mhm.
that did lead me to start the Underbelly so that anyone can practice yoga with me all over the globe. If you have a streaming device, we're streaming on all platforms. You can find the classes anywhere, anytime. But even with the Underbelly, it's like not everybody wants to go to a yoga class. And so that spurred me to write books. So I have two books,
Mhm.
Everybody Yoga and Yoke, My Yoga of Self Acceptance. And, but even with the books, like, and you can get the books anywhere that books are sold. But even with those, it's like not everybody's going to read a book. And that's not
Mhm.
all that yoga is. It's not just about this physical practice, or even it's not even just about meditation and breath work. And
Mhm.
so I started the podcast Dear Jessamyn to talk about
Mhm.
really the yoga of everyday life, and not just the yoga of living your life, but the yoga of relationships and what it is to be in relationship and in community with other people. And specifically on Dear Jessamyn, we focus on polyamory and the complexity of being in a relationship with more than one person at once. But all of it ultimately is in service of just living my yoga practice and being honest and authentic. And it's still the medicine for me, like that it has always been. I think that when I first went to that class with my friend when I was in grad school, it became this like tonic for me so that I was able to understand that change is inevitable in life. And over time, it has just continued to be the medicine that I need to get through the changes of life.
I love that you said this sentence. I realized that, we limit ourselves. And the specific, how did you phrase that? You said something like, we think we have to be this one thing.
I have no idea what I said, but I know the idea was like that it's like you get an idea of yourself and you're like, this is who I am. This is what I can do. Like for me, it was like, I was studying nonprofit arts management. So it's like, I am going to be an arts manager. I will work in nonprofit arts organizations. And this is the kind of person that I am. And even like getting more specific, it's like, I work in general management. I do fundraising. Like this is what I do. So that means that anything that is not exactly that is not what I'm allowed to do. And it's interesting to me on a lot of levels, because just on a personal level, it means that I'm not able to experiment with and be in all of the other things that I'm interested in. So outside of general management and fundraising, there's so many different things that I like to do. I like to cook, I like to garden, I like to draw, like all of these things that, and especially if it's something that I was not told that I'm good at. And I think that this is something that can just get like really sticky, where it's like, if you don't have your abilities confirmed by another human being, it's like they don't exist. And so just using drawing as an example, like when I was a kid, I never had anybody tell me that I was good at art. And so over time, I just started to think I'm not good at that. So that's something that I shouldn't do. I did it with math too. It's like, I'm not good at math. So that's just not something that I can do. I actually think math is really interesting. I think drawing and painting are really interesting. And, but not having that confirmation meant that I didn't even give myself the chance to explore with that. And there's so many things, so much joy in life that can come from doing things that other people might not think that you're good at. And so that stands out for me on a personal level. But then like as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, it's really interesting to me to work with other people and see the ways that they have decided who they are, so that they'll be like, okay, this is the type of person that I am. Like I'm a project manager, or I am the thing that I hear the most is people saying like, I'm not creative. I don't come up with creative ideas. And I'm like, everybody is creative. To be a human being is the ultimate act of creativity. So it's not just because you didn't go to art school, just because you like don't make art professionally, that doesn't mean that you're not creative. And those kind of limiting beliefs they start really small, but it's this really powerful seed that becomes the forest of your identity, where it's like, you can't see anything else, you can't do anything else, and you can't be who you are.
Oh my gosh. You said the seed grows into the forest of your identity and you can't see who you are. Oh my gosh. That's so good. I'm like fist pumping, guys.
Totally. It's a thing, man. It's a thing.
Well, and what's interesting is that's the way I like to teach the Enneagram, right? It's like this, it's who we think we have to be. It's like, it's not who we are, it's who we think we have to be. So then it's how we've been coping, it's how we've been surviving. So actually the goal, right, is like expand that. You get to be any of the types. You get to play in all of the numbers.
I really appreciate you saying that, because so my big confession is that I have been an Enneagram hater. We were talking about this a little bit before I got on.
I love that.
I know. Well, so, okay, when I told my business partner is an Enneagram lover. She's very, very
Okay.
into it. And she's like, when I told her that, she was like, oh, that must mean that you're an 8. And I think that that's like a characteristic
Interesting.
of being an 8, is to not believe in the Enneagram. And it's weird for me because like I'm really into astrology. I very much believe in
Mhm.
numerology, but the
Mhm.
Enneagram is challenging for me because it's like
Mhm.
something that you decide about yourself, or like
Mhm.
it's like a something that you, it can change. And so I'm like, how do you know? Like, what? We all have
Right.
so many personalities and identities. Like, how do you decide? But I love what you're saying, that it's like, no, you, all the numbers, they all are
Yeah.
relevant.
I mean, to nerd out on it, it's like if you think about it in terms of how the system is, you have two numbers on either side of you that you connect to.
Mhm.
So that's three already. Then you have numbers that you move to in stress and rest. So that's five.
Mm.
And then sometimes we look like the people who raised us, right? We have like a familial
Mm.
overlay. Maybe our family culture looks a certain way. We think of
Interesting.
America as an Enneagram 3 culture. So then
Oh,
we all
interesting.
Americans kind of carry the pressure to be successful. So there's
Oh,
that. So it's like at the end of the
interesting.
day, we
Yeah.
kind of touch all the numbers. So there's some part of us, but I think there is that core motivation. But anyway,
Mm.
getting carried away
Not.
here.
Maybe we have a separate conversation about this after, because I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
America's a 3 on the Enneagram. This is so interesting. America, tell me about yourself. No, that's very
America, tell
interesting to
me
think
about,
about.
yeah, what's your childhood wound, America? Um,
America like
okay.
sits down, hand on chin. You just don't understand. Anyway, yeah, totally. Oh my god,
Oh gosh, it's
boy.
hard. Um, so one of the things I think about when I think about you and your brand, and kind of I take yoga classes with you with a friend of mine, and I always think like, man, she like you're so brave. Like you just have so
Mm,
much just like here I am, here's what I'm doing. Um kind of unapologetic about it. Have you always been
mhm.
like that or did you learn that along the way? Has that
That's a
changed
great
over time?
question. That is a great question. I well, um, okay. Um, I guess the short answer probably is yes. I think I have probably
Uh,
always been brave, but
mhm.
it has come from feeling very not brave. So
Mhm.
I have had a lot of different experiences in my life where I have felt like not good enough, or
Mm.
like ashamed of myself, or like I mean, just thinking back to, and I talked about this a little bit in Everybody Yoga, but when I was a kid I had locked hair, so I had
Mhm.
dreadlocks, and now locks are like extremely popular, but when
Mhm.
I was 8 they were not popular, and
Mhm.
I was, everybody made fun of me, and I was very ashamed of my hair, to the point where and this goes into another thing, but my mom was hospitalized for a period of time in my childhood, and she's been in and out of the
Mhm.
hospital throughout my life. And but while she was in the hospital the first time, one of her friends asked me if I would want her to cut off my hair and give me braids, and I was thrilled because I was like,
Mm.
I hate this hair, like everybody makes fun of me. And I look back at that and I was just like, wow, that was the start of a huge shame spiral. And like now needing to really recoup from that. But just that whole cycle of self
Yeah.
and looking at myself, that I definitely found that to be like a harvesting place for bravery and needing to stand up for myself, ultimately, standing up
Mhm.
for myself to myself. And that
Mm.
extends to like middle school. I was bullied a lot in middle
Mhm.
school. And when I look back at that time now, especially having been bullied, like after, I remember after being in on the cover of Cosmopolitan UK and on the cover of Self magazine, I had a lot of large scale haters and trolls.
Okay.
And I thought back to that time in middle school, like, wow, it was really helpful to be bullied in middle school, because then I learned that the only people that bully are people who are being bullied themselves. Like the people
Mm.
who say mean things have something terrible is happening at home, something really, really sad is happening within themselves. And
Mhm.
it allows me to experience a feeling of compassion that I'm feeling for
Mm.
myself, but also that I can feel for other people. And that is the harvesting ground for bravery. And
Mm.
so it goes from there, that I think that for me, every moment of hardship, every time that someone has told me no, or that I'm not good enough, or every time that I've felt that toward myself, that has
Mhm.
been the place where I'm able to find bravery. And I think that
Mhm.
the way that I have understood bravery, it seems like it's like a cape that you could buy at the store, or like that it's a cape that someone else is going to put on you and tell you, like,
Mhm.
you are brave, you are
Mhm.
worthwhile. And I think there's a fear of diving deep into the pain and the solitude of feeling truly alone and not having
Mhm.
anyone to lean on. But when you dive down there and just feel the feelings and feel so alone, there's a
Mhm.
point where it's like you end up making the cape for yourself, and you end up
Mhm.
saying, I'm just going to do this, because there's two options. I can stay in the game, or I cannot. And
Mhm.
up to this point, I have decided to stay in the game. And I have a lot of respect for people who choose the other option, because it is
Mhm.
all the same ultimately. But for
Mhm.
me, it's like when it gets so bad, if you keep going,
Mhm.
that's really the winning streak, and that's where the bravery comes from.
Mhm. I love what you said about people who bully. It's like they're being bullied, and I often think about that with body image stuff. Like if I read a comment section and I'm seeing people comment on other people's bodies, in ways that I think are wrong, I'm like, "Oh, you're terrified of being fat. You're terrified of
Yes.
it.
Oh my,
And where did you
literally.
learn that? And how did you
Exactly.
get there?" Because it's actually has nothing to do with this person. Because you're projecting all these concepts and ideas onto them that are false.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
always, when I see that, which at this point, I really don't read. Like, if I see that
Mhm.
that comments are getting like really negative, I just won't read them, because it is,
Mhm.
because I'm sensitive like everybody else.
Healthy,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's just like, this isn't making me feel good. But
Mhm.
when I see that, I think like, wow, that person is really unhappy, or like they're really scared. And I
Mhm.
mean, we live in a world where just the idea of being fat is worse than almost anything else. Like, people would rather be
Mhm.
called pretty much anything than being called fat.
Mhm.
And
But
it's
we're so
because
cute.
there's, well, that's the thing about it. And that's what
Sorry, I
that's what
didn't
I
mean to
think too.
interrupt you.
No, but you're right. And I think that's a part of it too, is that I think that there's this feeling of like, well, how can you be so cute and also be
Mhm.
so bad? And it's
Yeah.
all linked to this we can have a conversation about like the medical industrial complex and the ideas around obesity and like health and how that impacts our society overall. But I
Mhm.
think that all of those statistics really make it where people think that they're doing a service to humanity to
Mhm.
fat shame and to be fat phobic, that it's like
Mhm.
you are hurting other people if you are fat, and I have
Mhm.
to tell you about this. And anytime there's like extreme vitriol like that, I'm just like, what's going on, man? Like, something's
Mhm.
going on that you even care this much. Because generally,
Mhm.
like, if you're feeling balance in your life, and if you're feeling happy, first of all,
Mhm.
if you're feeling happy, you want everybody to feel happy. That's just how that works.
Mhm.
And then if you are feeling like you can't if you're a dog with a bone and you can't let it go, there's something
Mhm.
else going on. It's probably not even about this at all, and you're just
Mhm.
using this as a vehicle. And for me, I think if you are ever being trolled, the response ultimately leans on you. It's like, okay, so we know that that's going to happen. We know that there's
Mm.
always going to be people who are sad, who are like coming from that hurt place, and hurt people just hurt people. So they're just going to keep
Mhm.
doing that. The question then becomes, do you want to be a part of that cycle? And
Mhm.
they're totally legitimate to be a part of that cycle, because the
Mhm.
trolls have tried me and I've absolutely come for that ass. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to use profanity, but like
No.
I don't want to make it seem like I'm always like so compassionate and pious. No,
Uh-huh.
people
Uh-huh.
catch me on the wrong day and I'm like, I'm from Greensboro. You don't know
Same.
me. So like, but I feel like whenever that
Uh,
happens, I'm always just like I remember I was in this a Gatorade campaign that was so tremendous, really incredible. And one day I got on Twitter and I don't even remember what the person was commenting, but I was just like decided that I was offended that day and that I wanted to say
mhm.
something back. And then I ended up deleting it, because I was just like, just don't,
Mhm.
please don't be a part of
Mhm.
this. Like, just let it go. Let them, they
Mhm.
feel better just having been heard, because ultimately I
Mhm.
think that's all we're looking for, is we all just want to be heard.
Yeah. Man, I'm the same way. Like some days I will just go off. I'll just respond. I'm
Definitely.
responding from like my fully, I need to protect myself. I need to like defend myself. And that's never the way, that never feels good on my nervous system, but it
Never.
always feels good to type out. And
It
then
totally. Yes. Oh my
but then
god.
I get caught up in it, and we stay in it.
Yes.
And it's like, this takes my day now. Whereas if I could have just ignored it and I would have had my day.
Exactly. And I think
Mhm.
for me, it really comes down to like, time is my most valuable asset. And so it's like,
Mm.
wow, I'm really devoting my time to this. I just gave this person how many minutes, hours, even just seconds of my life. Like, and and it's fine, it
Mhm.
continues, thankfully, but is
Mhm.
that how I want to spend my time? And generally for
Mhm.
me, the answer is no.
Mm. Um, is it weird having been like, I mean, like you're known for something, right? Like, so you have like this area in which you like a niche, right? Like nailed
Mm,
down. Is that weird? Is it weird to
definitely.
be
Extremely.
okay?
Yes.
How do you
Yeah.
manage that? Like the other parts of you that aren't expressed, or maybe.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I
Mhm.
do think that it's very helpful for me that my work resides in this world of yoga, which, while
Mhm.
yoga is traditionally understood, I think that in the mainstream, yoga is understood as a physical exercise, that it's a class that you go to or something
Mhm.
like that. And maybe we could extend that to say it's a meditation class that you go to, or it's a
Mhm.
breathwork class, but it's very rarely outside of like this physical practice of it. But
Mhm.
my understanding of yoga is that yoga is everything. That
Mhm.
yoga just loosely means union. So it means
Mhm.
to join together. So for me, it's joining together all the different parts of myself that don't make sense, so that
Mhm.
every part of myself ultimately can fit within that definition of yoga. And that's why it's been so tremendous for me to expand my platform to talk about lots of different things, and to not just
Mhm.
talk about like physically practicing yoga classes. That is a lot of the content that I create. Like, if you go on my YouTube channel, there's lots of different yoga classes, like on Instagram, TikTok, all the different platforms. There's lots of different content like that. But it did inspire me to talk about cannabis, to talk about politics, to talk about
Mhm.
polyamory, to talk
Mhm.
about even like, I also do, and this is I think a larger topic, but I teach naked yoga classes on
Mhm.
OnlyFans. Being able to
Mhm.
talk about sexuality and sensuality and that understanding of myself has been, it's a huge part of my yoga practice, a huge part of my
Mhm.
physical yoga practice, and also just a huge part of who I am. And
Mhm.
so finding ways to fit all the different parts of myself into this really specific niche has felt really
Mhm.
important to me. But even with that,
Yeah.
like, all of me cannot fit within that. And I think that
Mhm.
no matter, even if you are able to talk about everything that you like in your life's work, whatever that is, there's still
Mhm.
so much that cannot be held within a brand name. And so
Mhm.
for me, it's really important to have like a differentiation between Jessamyn Stanley, the brand,
Mhm.
and me, the person that I
Mhm.
am in just my day to day life. And so for me, that means a lot of time alone, a lot of time,
Mhm.
like, I don't really like, I don't live in the heart of things. I don't spend a lot of time with people that I don't know very closely.
Mhm.
And especially as time goes on, my personal
Mhm.
relationships and the relationships that I have with people that I've known for a long time have become more and more important to me, because I think
Mhm.
that it's just really important for me to not be the niche, to not just
Yeah.
be what I'm sharing with other people.
Oh my gosh, Justin, I feel that in my bones. I feel like before I had a platform or whatever, I was so social. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's welcome. And then now I'm so private. I'm so much
Totally.
more like, and that really freaked me out for a minute there. Like, why am I
Mm-hmm.
so tired? Why am I so private? Why am I closed now? And it
Mm-hmm.
felt like something in me had like broken.
Mm-hmm.
Like this like fun love, because I'm holding the pressure of 7. I'm
Totally.
supposed to be like fun and happy and like
Oh yeah.
sociable, and kind of tapping into the part of me that can manage her energy and understand her
Mm-hmm.
limitations. Like, that has been such a journey, but I love the way
Yeah.
you said it. Like, you just kind of said it like, well, this is natural progression. Like, of course I need a part of me that's not my brand. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
And it
that's
makes the
so good.
brand louder. Are you a
Mhm.
Gemini or a Leo, or what is your sun's sign?
I'm a Leo moon, but I'm an
Oh,
Aquarius sun.
I
Yeah.
oh, I was like, it's an air sign for sure. Absolutely. What's your rising sign?
It was Pisces. Yeah.
Okay, it's fine. It's actually not a big deal. I was just like, there's like a Piscean sweetness that's happening,
Mhm.
but I'm like,
Mhm.
it's really the fun, loving thing. I'm like, are you a Gemini? But you're an air. You are an air sign, Aquarius. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, totally.
No.
Beautiful.
My having a Pisces rising has been the plight of my life, Jessamyn, because
I
I
can only
feel
imagine. Oh my God.
so misunderstood so often, because I'm like
Yes.
fiery inside and like passionate and
Oh.
like, you know, so it's
That is
interesting.
it's really lucky that you're an Aquarius, because it's like you can ultimately get to a place of like, well, I'm unique, so I'm all of these different things. And that's just who you
Yeah.
are in the sun. But I can only imagine like deep conflict between that Leo moon,
Hmm.
the Pisces rising. But like, I really feel like
Hmm.
Aquarius is coming in to save the day. I really appreciate Aquarians on a lot of levels. But
Nice.
also like so many challenges just in being a uniquity like that. It's very interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are yours? What are you?
I am a double Cancer sun and moon and a Virgo
Okay.
rising. So I'm very,
Oh, dang.
very, very nurturing and crying all the time. There's a lot of emotions happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a lot
Not
of
like you though.
not like you. Oh, that's funny. Because and we guesstimate. You said before we recorded that you guesstimated that you were an 8, or like you might be an
Yes.
8.
Yes.
Because I think of 8s as carrying a lot of pressure, and that like
Mm-hmm.
Virgo Cancer combo sounds like that, a lot of like a pressure.
That's
Like you're
exactly
carrying a lot.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. I think that sometimes so I on my creative team, I work with two other prominent Virgo placements. One is Virgo
Mhm.
moon, and the other person is a double Virgo moon and sun. And we sometimes we'll have these moments where I'm like, okay, this is just a Virgo moment, and we all need to chill. Like everybody
Uh-huh.
needs to take it down a notch. And like
Yeah.
I we joke that I'm the Beyonce of yoga, and I'm like, this is not a compliment, first of all, because Beyonce is Queen Virgo, and we're all like, "Oh my God, Virgo season! This is so cute." No, Beyonce is a control freak. This is what you need to understand. So I'm like, it's just a saga. It's like
Beyonce's
this.
probably tired.
She's literally tired. Like she's not. Anytime that it's like if everybody's having fun around Beyonce, she's not
Uh,
having fun. Beyonce
yeah.
is running the playback. So yeah, I would say pressure for sure. Like for
Mhm.
no reason sometimes. Like I'm like
Mhm.
playing a game with myself that it's like, why are you batting the ball so hard at yourself for no reason? So yeah.
Mm. One of the things that I've seen like you mention a lot is starting with yourself, like starting with
Mm,
compassion for yourself, starting with love for yourself. I think you said something. Oh, if I'm arguing with my own bully, kind of like when I'm bullying myself.
definitely. Hmm.
Do you feel like in relationship you tend to start here first and then let that flow out?
Always. I feel like that
Mhm.
is the most important thing for me is to always just come back to my center. How am I impacting this? What am I projecting, especially like in relationship, any kind of relationship with another human being, whether it's a
Mhm.
platonic friendship, a work relationship, and then I think especially a romantic relationship. It's like,
Mhm.
what usually childhood trauma am I projecting onto this other person? Who have I cast them as? Like, what role have I
Mhm.
decided that they need to play so that I can continue to work out this situation that I have not let go of from my childhood? And I think that's
Dang.
something that we all do. Like, everybody's doing that all the time. And it's really challenging to be in relationships with other people, I think, because it's so much about ourselves individually.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's just this constant, like, how can I how can I see that this other person is not trying to hurt me? No one, I
Mm-hmm.
truly think that none of us are ever trying to hurt each other. And I know that's a hard line whenever we live in a world where there's just so much chaos and hatred and negativity and
Mm-hmm.
sadness. But ultimately, I don't think we're trying to hurt each other. And part of my belief
Mm-hmm.
in that comes from, I don't know if you've read the Four Agreements, but the one of the
Mm-hmm.
Four Agreements is don't take anything personally. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
nothing that anyone ever does has anything to do with me. And that's really the second thing for me is like, so that person who's not trying to hurt me, they're not even thinking about me. They're not trying to,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that they're doing, that maybe they're projecting something onto me that has nothing
Mm-hmm.
to do with me. And so how can I, and I think this is most challenging in our closest relationships, and not even in like romantic relationships, but in, I think, honestly, specifically biological relationships, like when we're talking about relationships with
Mm-hmm.
your parents or with your children or siblings or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, this person, they did it, specifically with parents. It's like they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to hurt me. They know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Your parents are
Mm-hmm.
babies just like you, and they don't even
Mm-hmm.
know what is up or down. And they're still trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand how they got out of the sandbox. Meanwhile, they somehow gave birth to you, and y'all are all just out here like tumbling around like dice, like literally knocking into
Mm-hmm.
each other. And so just being able to say, like, I am my own dice, I'm doing my own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing their thing. And really, the
Mm-hmm.
resolution point for me, and this is, I guess, three, that is that if they're not trying to hurt me, and if they're not actually like even thinking about me,
Mm-hmm.
I can know that I can think about myself. I can focus on what's going on for me. And I can
Mm-hmm.
offer that as my viewpoint for the rest of the world. So that when I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing other people do what they're doing, I can know that they're feeling all the same feelings that I'm feeling. They feel sadness, they feel distress, they feel fear, they
Mm-hmm.
feel happy, they feel joy, they feel love. All of these things that I'm feeling, they are also feeling. And I can
Mm-hmm.
know that, and I can make space for them to feel that too. Not to the detriment, not to my own detriment, not to make
Mm-hmm.
myself smaller, but really as a way of heightening and brightening so that all of us are able to feel and experience as big and as powerfully as we all are.
Mm-hmm. Dang. So in that, so much of the work that you've talked about is in compassion for self, compassion for others, not taking things personally. When people come to the underbelly and, they say, I want to be in this community, I want to spend time with you, I want to learn from you. What do you hope they leave with?
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh my goodness. What I hope they leave with, I hope that you will go forth knowing that you are okay. It's literally like
Mhm.
each person, what I can put if I'm just putting my hands
Mm.
on the sides of your face, I'm just saying, you're okay. Whatever it
Mm.
is that you have going on, and I know you have a lot going on. Every single human being has experienced something so fucked up. Everybody has
Mhm.
something that is just like horrifying, and you are okay. Every single human being has done or said something to another human being that is truly horrible. You are
Mhm.
okay. You're not you're not a bad person. You don't
Mhm.
deserve sadness. You are meant for joy. You are meant for
Mm.
pleasure. You are meant for love and lust and the biggest, most powerful positive feelings at every single moment in this life. You should
Mhm.
experience as much pleasure as possible, and you deserve it. And
Mm.
from here, you will go on to do something shitty, something bad. You will say the wrong thing, and you are still okay. And I see
Mm.
you. I witness you. I believe in
Mhm.
you. You are good.
Mm. Jessamyn, how do we connect with you further? So people who are listening at home who are like, okay, I need her in my life. Where do they get time with you? Where do they go?
Come to the underbelly. Go to the underbelly.com. It's the word under and then BELLY. jessamynstanley.com. And you can try a free 2-week trial, or you can just go on ahead, get you a year set up, and then you'll always be able to find me. And we have lots of different types of yoga classes, lots of different meditations. And if signing up for the underbelly is not the thing, go to youtube.com and type in Jessamyn Stanley. It's Jessam like monkey, YN like Nancy, and then Stanley, like the way that you would spell that. And that type that in, and you will find lots of different free resources as well. And you can find my books, Everybody Yoga and Yoke, My Yoga of Self-Acceptance, on my website, jessamynstanley.com. And you can get signed copies in the Underbelly shop, but you can also get them literally anywhere the books are sold. And the Yoke book is also on Audible as well. But if you're just looking for like, if you just want to passively like connect with me and see me every so often when you're scrolling, follow me on Instagram and TikTok and Threads at My Name is Jessamyn, and Facebook too.
And we'll link all of that in the show notes for you guys. So you can just scroll on down and click. Jessamyn, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much for coming
God.
and sharing your light.
You are such a joy. Thank you so much for having me.
too.
It's been an honor to be here.